What's up, party people? How's everybody doing? You know, it is a great day today. It's an awesome day. I have the house all to myself to just record videos all day today, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. So in this video, we're gonna go over black bars, right? You know those black bars you see up top and down below right now. They look good, they feel good. Those are called letterboxing, right? But there's a right and wrong way to make those black bars. If you do it the wrong way, it's a little bit faster in editing. It looks good while you're editing, but there's a good chance you're gonna make it look bad, really bad later on when you're watching the video, right? And that's the way that I used to do it. I very sincerely regret it just because now that I go back and watch those videos I made years ago, they just don't look as good. It just doesn't look real, right? And the other way to do it the right way is the way that Hollywood uses. So we're gonna go over that. It's super easy. Let's get into it. So those black bars, right? I mentioned they're called letterboxing. And usually when you're watching like a movie online or on your phone, whatever video player you're using, whether it be like Windows Movie Viewer, the iPhone automatic built-in one, those players will automatically make those black bars depending on the aspect ratio of the video or of the movie or whatever piece of content you're watching. And that's why aspect ratio is so important. It's really critical that you know aspect ratio. And there's a few reasons why you might choose one aspect ratio over the other, but we're gonna go over that and we're gonna cover what the different aspect ratios are. But first, I wanna show you how not to make these black bars because we're not kidding anybody, they look good. So you're in your video editor here. Now you don't have to be using DaVinci Resolve. This applies to Final Cut Pro, Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve, CapCut, literally whatever you're using, this works for. But for the sake of this video, we're in DaVinci Resolve and we have a 4K timeline, right? That's 3840 by 2160. Now that aspect ratio is a 16:9, and that is just by default what most cameras shoot in. This is a clip I got of a nearby road, and you can see it's supposed to be kind of like a time-lapse thing. I had my drone just hovering in midair. The wrong way to do this would be to come over to your cropping settings, right? Now, if you're in Premiere Pro, you can just add a crop effect in DaVinci Resolve. It's built into the regular effect controls in the inspector. But the wrong way to do it would be to crop the top, come down about like right there and the bottom, right? Now, like, we're not kidding anybody. Like, that looks good. It looks cinematic, right? While you're editing, that looks really good. And when you're playing in full screen in your editor, you can't really tell the difference. It looks good, you know, what can you say? But the reason this is wrong is because when you do it this way, you're telling your video editor, that you want that section of pixels, you want all of those pixels to be black, and you're baking it in that way so that your final video is still the 3840 by 2160, but it has those black bars there and they're always black. You know what I mean? Like that black is baked into those pixels. And you want to avoid doing that for a few reasons. The first reason is that you're sacrificing your video quality. Like, those are pixels you could be using for a higher pixel density, just for more quality in your edit. Because like I said, this is still a 16:9 aspect ratio that you have going on here, but those pixels are just baked in black. So if you were to take this video and put it on a different screen, maybe the screen is sized differently so that it's not 16:9, or some projectors, because some projectors aren't regularly 16:9, your video is going to look funny because it's going to look like there's more black on the top and bottom, just depending on whatever aspect ratio the screen is. And like I said, the reason being is because you've baked black into those pixels. It just doesn't look good. You shouldn't do that. And there's a better way to do it. And the way to do that, make sure that you can keep those pixels on the top and bottom and use them if you need, and keep your resolution, and make sure whatever screen you're showing them on shows them perfectly. And that is by using a different aspect ratio in your editing. I'll show you how. So the right way to do it is you go into your timeline settings. Like, you know how when you go in, you have the option to change your resolution, right? Well, the resolution is what makes the aspect ratio. And in this case, 3840 by 2160 is 16:9. 1920 by 1080 is also 16:9. 16:9 is just default by what people know. But if you want those black bars, that means you have to designate a smaller portion of your screen to be the window of what shows. That means we have to use a smaller total resolution. And there's a whole rabbit hole we could go down about aspect ratios and what aspect ratios are used for what, but I'm going to keep this simple for you. Choosing the right aspect ratio kind of like sets the vibe of your video. It makes it feel a certain way when you're watching it. And sometimes you'll notice when you're at the movie theaters, different parts of different movies will have different aspect ratios. So the first part of your movie might be one aspect ratio, the second part might be another, just depending on what you're supposed to be feeling in that moment. It's a very subtle way of making your audience feel what you want them to feel and be invested in your narrative, in your plot, in your movie. So just long story short, you just need to be aware of what aspect ratio you're using and why. What I'm going to do is give you a preview of what each aspect ratio looks like. There are 7 of the most popular aspect ratios, but I'm going to put a label on screen so that you know which one you're looking at. But just a quick disclaimer, it's best to watch this part of this video on a computer screen, on a regular 16:9 screen, just because sometimes if you use like the smartphones, they have like those curved edges. You know, like I have iPhone, I know iPhone has that, so you don't get the full aspect ratio. But just so you have the full viewing experience, if you can watch this on a computer screen, I would recommend doing so. But let's get started. This aspect ratio here is 1.85 to 1. You can kind of see there's very small black bars on the top and bottom here. This one isn't as noticeable. This one is 2.39 to 1. This one, the black bars are a lot more noticeable. You can see that there's a big black bar on the top, big black bar on the bottom. But if you were to go in your viewer here, you see this is the frame, right? This is what we're working with. It's not your regular rectangle because these are the dimensions that are set for this particular aspect ratio, right? So this is what it looks like. And again, the video player is automatically resizing and automatically adding those black bars on the top or bottom for the pixels that we have here. Now, teaching point, what I was saying about keeping those pixels is you could see if I select my window here, you could still see I have video on top and bottom here. Like I can move this up and down and those pixels are still there for me to use. So I could reshape this pretty much however I want. So this one is 2.76. You can see the black bars are a little bigger here. The window of viewing that you have for your media content is actually a little bit smaller, but this is the most common like cinematic format as far as I'm aware of. I know that Christopher Nolan uses this aspect ratio a lot in his films, and that is just it's something that I can appreciate. So this one's different, right? This is 1.37 to 1. This time the black bars are put on the sides of the video, so it gives you more of that 4:3 look. So again, this is useful just depending on what you're trying to make. The feel that comes with this, it feels a little bit older. This is like an aspect ratio that you might use. Now we're back to the black bars on the top and bottom. This one is 2.35 to 1. Okay, so this one gives you that like more widescreen feel again. This is also another popular cinematic option. We're back to being on the sides. This is 1.33 to 1. I don't think this one is exactly 4:3. It looks a little different than that to my eye. But again, this is what it looks like. And here we are back at full screen. This is 16:9. Okay, so this is no black bars at all. What you need to keep in mind, however, is that different aspect ratios have different dimensions at different resolutions. So because this is 4K, 16:9 is 3840 by 2160. But if you want your timeline to be at a 1080p, just regular HD, your resolution is going to be completely different numbers across the board. And here's how to do that calculation. Let's assume we're working with 1440p video, right? It's not quite 1080p, but it's not quite 4K either. It's just right in between. Now, let's assume we're hunting for the aspect ratio of 2.76 to 1, that popular cinematic one that I really like. Since 1440p by default is 2560 by 1440, what you do is you take the first number in that resolution, in this case 2560, and divide that by the aspect ratio that you're trying to find. So our equation here is 2560 divided by 2.76. That gives us 927.5, which we're going to just round up to 928. Your 2.76 to 1 aspect ratio on 1440p is 2560 by 928. Let's make that timeline. So I'm going to come over to my timeline right here, go to timeline settings. We want 2560 by 928, right? There we go. This, my friends, is a 1440p timeline. Same aspect ratio as before, except now we're viewing in 1440p. This is the right way of making black bars for your video, just so that you're not baking in that black to the top and bottom. It makes it so that you are in control of how exactly you want your video to be shown. But having to remember all the time how to do that calculation can be a big pain. It's one of those things that's nice to have the answer for, but are you going to remember how to do that all the time? And if you're like me, you can appreciate knowing how to do that, having the utility of knowing how to solve that equation, but you're not going to remember all the time. So I solved that problem. I made a cheat sheet with all of the most popular resolutions for all the most popular aspect ratios. It goes all the way from 1080p all the way down to 6K. So if you're working with any of those resolutions in your timeline, I got you covered. This cheat sheet has all those resolutions, all the aspect ratios, and all the dimensions that go with them so that you'll never have to remember how to do this calculation again. You just get this and you save it somewhere in like your Google Drive or maybe in the notes on your phone and you're golden. And you can pick it up on my website for just $5. That's like less than a Starbucks coffee. You'll never have to do that calculation again. Really simple, really convenient. This is my way of trying to provide value to the community, just because for the longest time I had a sticky note with that equation just taped to the bottom of my monitor screen. and it just got annoying after a while. And like, I wanted to remember how to do it, just not that way. So if you guys want to be able to have this information just at the tips of your fingers and be able to reference it really easy, $5 on the website. I'll leave a link down below so you can go check it out. And even if you guys don't want to buy anything on the website, there's a couple freebies there. Just again, my way of providing value to the community, giving back. You can just pick those up while you're there. So I really hope you guys were able to take something from this video. If you were, leave a like for the algorithm. It really helps. The channel's growing, and I would love to have you guys come along with me. Leave a comment. Let me know what project you think you're going to be working on that uses this aspect ratio knowledge, and subscribe to the channel if you think you have anything to gain from me. I am super happy to be doing this with you guys, and I will see you guys in the next video. I'm being goofy. I don't know what I'm doing. All right. Honestly, though, love y'all.